What's going on, YouTube? I'm your host, Gabos, and I got another video for y'all, bro. We got what if a nuclear weapon hit New York tomorrow? Yikes, just the thought of it is, intriguing. Yo, I ain't gonna front, bro. I be thinking about the last days on Earth and how this world would look if we got hit by some shit, or just, you know what I mean, God decided to come back and take everything back up. You obviously can't prepare for a crisis like a nuclear attack, but let's get into what would happen to New York as a result of one.
Chilly out there.
We already had a very pretty sunrise that's underway, and we are going to see a lot of sunshine out there for today.
If we imagine a terrifying scenario where a nuclear weapon was to hit a major US city like New York, the consequences would be devastating, not just for New York, but for the whole world. Today, we'll explore the domino effects of what could happen if this nightmare became a reality tomorrow. From the immediate impact to the long-term effects, we'll take a look at the potential devastation and how it would change our world forever. What would happen if a bomb like Little Boy, the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima, was detonated in New York City? Little Boy had an explosive yield of approximately 15 kilotons of TNT. When it was dropped on Hiroshima, it resulted in catastrophic destruction and loss of life. If a similar bomb were to hit Manhattan, the impact would be similarly devastating, but on a much larger scale due to the city's density and population. The explosion would create an intense fireball, vaporizing everything within a radius of about 200 meters or 650 feet. Skyscrapers, buildings, and people within this zone would be instantly incinerated. The blast wave would then radiate outwards, causing severe damage to structures up to 340 meters or over 1,000 feet away, shattering windows and collapsing buildings. Heavily built concrete buildings are severely damaged or demolished. Fatalities approach 100%. The immediate death.
The shit is so crazy how powerful a nuclear bomb is, because I've never personally seen one in my life, so I don't really know too much about them, but I'm just always amazed by how man can create something so powerful that could create this level of devastation, bro. Like, it still baffles my mind how bombs can actually exist and that they're man-made. Like, what are the components that goes into this shit? And like, this is just him breaking down what it would do to New York.
Toll would certainly be in the tens of thousands, if not more. Beyond the immediate blast zone, the heat and firestorm would cause widespread fires, engulfing large parts of the city. The intense heat would cause third-degree burns to people within 11 square kilometers or 4.4 square miles from ground zero. Third-degree burns extend throughout the layers of skin and are often painless because they destroy the pain nerves. They can cause severe scarring or disablement and can require amputation. The fallout, radioactive debris lifted into the atmosphere by the explosion, would spread out over a much larger area, carried by wind patterns. This radioactive fallout would contaminate the environment, making it hazardous for survivors and first responders. Emergency services would be overwhelmed, and the scale of destruction would make rescue efforts nearly impossible.
I would bet.
Hospitals would be flooded, and the city's infrastructure would be shattered. The psychological impact on survivors would be enormous, and the city would face a long, difficult path to recovery, if recovery were even possible. However, such a scenario with a Little Boy atomic bomb detonating in New York is extremely unlikely. Only if terrorists could somehow get their hands on such a weapon could it happen, but the likelihood of that is very low. If a nuclear weapon were to detonate over New York City, it would most likely come from a nuclear-armed state, plunging the world into a possible nuclear world war. While New York City is a symbolic and economic hub, it lacks significant military targets, making it less likely to be a primary target in a nuclear conflict. Washington, D.C., with its concentration of political and military leadership, or U.S. nuclear silos, aimed at crippling the nation's nuclear arsenal, are more probable targets. Striking these locations would aim to dismantle the U.S. command structure and reduce its retaliatory capabilities. However, there is an incentive to deliberately target densely populated areas like New York to maximize civilian casualties. Densely populated areas like New
Yo, the impact of a nuclear bomb in the middle of Times Square would have eviscerated this entire photo, this entire video, gone. Oh, like they never existed. Yo, that's insane.
New York to maximize civilian casualties and cause widespread panic and destabilization, a strategy known as counter-value targeting. This approach aims to break the enemy's will to fight by inflicting massive civilian and infrastructural losses. The US and Russia possess the world's largest nuclear arsenals, remnants of the Cold War's arms race. Today, they continue to maintain and develop these formidable stockpiles, with Russia holding approximately 5,997 nuclear warheads and the US close behind with 5,550. These numbers alone are staggering, but the modern capabilities of these weapons make the situation even more alarming.
Yo!
Russia's arsenal includes the infamous Satan missile, known officially as the R-36. It has been a cornerstone of Russia's nuclear deterrent. However, it is the newer RS-28 Sarmat that truly represents the terrifying potential of modern nuclear technology. The RS-28 Sarmat, also known as the Satan II, is designed to carry multiple warheads and has the capacity to evade missile defenses, making it a potent tool of destruction. It can deliver up to 15 warheads anywhere in the world, ensuring that no target is beyond its reach. This means that a single missile can deliver 15 separate nuclear warheads to different targets. This capability is known as multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles, making the Satan II missile a highly destructive and versatile weapon designed to overwhelm defenses and deliver catastrophic damage to multiple targets. Based on various reports and analyses by defense experts, the Satan II missile has a total payload capacity that can unleash a maximum energy anywhere from 15 to 50 megatons of TNT. Now, let's imagine the terrifying scenario on the lower end. A single Satan II missile is launched towards New York City, with each of its 15 warheads having a yield of 1 megaton of TNT. The Satan II missile can only be launched from land-based silos. If launched from the Uzhur missile base in southern Siberia, it would travel over 9,250 kilometers, or over 5,750 miles, to reach New York City. With a top speed of Mach 20, and taking into account the different phases of flight, it would reach New York in about 30 to 35 minutes. Even though it is extremely unlikely that a single missile would be used in a nuclear war scenario, for educational purposes, we will imagine that a Satan II missile is launched and has now reached New York City to
reach New York City in 35 minutes from 9,000 miles away? Oh my God.
understand the raw power of such weapons. In our earlier example, we imagined a little boy atomic bomb detonating over New York City with an energy of 15 kilotons of TNT. Now consider the Satan II missile, which has 1,000 times that power at 15 megatons of TNT. If we thought it would be difficult for New York to recover from a little boy atomic bomb, there is no question that the RS-28 missile would utterly destroy the city. The largest US thermonuclear weapon ever detonated, Castle Bravo, had a 15 megaton energy release, providing data and simulations that help us understand the potential effects of a nuclear strike of this magnitude. If a Satan II missile, with its 15 megaton yield, were to detonate over New York City, the destruction would be catastrophic. The explosion would create a fireball with a radius of over 4 kilometers, or 2.6 miles, vaporizing everything within an area of over 50 square kilometers, or 19 square miles. The extreme heat would produce temperatures higher than the surface of the sun, incinerating buildings, vehicles, and people in an instant. Beyond the immediate fireball, the thermal radiation would cause third-degree burns up to 34 kilometers, or 21 miles away. This would encompass most of the New York metropolitan area, causing severe burns and igniting widespread fires that would be impossible to control. While the biggest payload capability of a US missile is found in the Trident II submarine-launched ballistic missile, or SLBM, the Trident II can carry multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles, each with a nuclear warhead. Typically, it can be equipped with up to 8 warheads, each with a yield of around 475 kilotons, although it can theoretically carry up to 14 warheads, depending on the configuration and the mission requirements. This makes the Trident II one of the most powerful and flexible delivery systems in the US nuclear arsenal. If the US were to launch a Trident II missile against Moscow, the most plausible launch sites would be from submarines in the Black Sea or the Baltic Sea. While the Black Sea is an option, the Baltic Sea, often referred to as Lake NATO, is more likely due to its proximity to Moscow. The distance from the Baltic Sea to Moscow is just over 700 kilometers, or about 430 miles. Considering the missile's top speed of Mach 24, approximately 29,000 kilometers per hour, or 18,000 miles per hour, and accounting for the various flight phases, it would likely reach Moscow in just over 10 minutes. Upon detonation, the missile's multiple warheads, each with a yield of up to 475 kilotons, would create immense destruction. The initial 75 kilotons house multiple warheads, each with a yield.
Boom! That? Oh my gosh. That's just the one that's, yo, oh my goodness, bro. That whiplash, for lack of a better term, I can only think of it as whiplash, would destroy buildings from miles away, bro.
Of up to 475 kilotons would create immense destruction. The initial blast would generate a fireball with temperatures hotter than the sun, vaporizing everything within a radius of several kilometers. The shockwave would...
How can we create something like that, bro? With heat waves that's hotter than the surface of the sun and it's man-made? What?
Flatten buildings and infrastructure over a wide area,
Insane.
while the intense heat would ignite fires causing further damage. The electromagnetic pulse, or EMP, generated by the explosion would disable electronic devices and communications over a vast area, compounding the chaos. The combined effects of the blast, heat, radiation, and EMP would result in catastrophic loss of life and infrastructure, effectively crippling Moscow and severely impacting Russia's ability to function as a nation. During the Cold War and beyond, there have been discussions and plans involving the use of nuclear weapons to create catastrophic events like tsunamis. One such Soviet project, codenamed Lavina, meaning avalanche, aimed to create an artificial tsunami using a massive explosion, intended to cause significant casualties and damage to coastal cities. This project was conceived as an alternative to traditional...
Yo, God, just take me out, bro. If I ever had to look out my window and seen this and count and thought to myself, this is how I'm going. You know what I mean? This is how I'm going, bro. Waves taller than buildings. What?
Damage to coastal cities.
Imagine just looking at that shit and seeing
This
that
project
right
was
out your
conceived
window.
as an alternative
Lit.
to traditional nuclear weapons, leveraging the destructive power of a massive wave to wipe out enemy coastal cities. There has been speculation and discussion about the possibility of using a nuclear weapon to also trigger an eruption of the Yellowstone supervolcano. However, scientific consensus indicates that this scenario is highly unlikely. The energy required to trigger an eruption far exceeds what a nuclear detonation could provide.
Insane.
Therefore, while the idea is theoretically dramatic, it lacks practical feasibility. What didn't lack practicality was the Tsar Bomba. It was the most powerful nuclear weapon ever detonated, with a yield of 50 megatons of TNT. This Soviet bomb was tested on October 30th, 1961, over the Novaya Zemlya archipelago in the Arctic Ocean. The blast could be seen from 1,000 kilometers away, as far as Norway. The shockwave from the explosion circled the Earth 3 times, and windows were shattered up to 900 kilometers from the blast site. Now imagine the Tsar Bomba detonating over New York City. The fireball alone would incinerate everything within over a 5-kilometer or over 3-mile radius, vaporizing buildings and infrastructure instantly. Heavy blast damage would spread over a radius of 9 kilometers, covering over 250 square kilometers, or about 100 square miles, resulting in the total destruction of most buildings and severe injuries to anyone in this zone. Moderate blast damage would extend even further, up to 20 kilometers, covering a staggering 1,350 square kilometers or over 500 square miles. In this area, most residential buildings would collapse from overpressure, causing universal injuries and widespread fatalities. The chances of fires starting in commercial and residential buildings would be extremely high, and these fires would spread rapidly due to the extensive damage. The optimal height of burst to maximize these effects would be 11.5 kilometers, or over 7 miles, ensuring the greatest possible area of devastation. Thermal radiation from the explosion would cause third-degree burns up to 60 kilometers, or 37 miles away. The intense heat would ignite fires over this vast area, adding to the overall destruction. The Tsar Bomba was never designed as a practical weapon, but rather to demonstrate the sheer power that could be unleashed. Some experts believe that the higher end of the yield range for the Satan II missile reaches 50 megatons, exactly the yield of the Tsar Bomba, making this scenario even more terrifying. Since the Tsar Bomba could be seen from as far as Norway, a nuclear weapon with a 50 megaton energy detonation over New York City would be visible all the way to Columbia, South Carolina, and would shatter windows across Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, Michigan, and up north reaching Quebec, Canada. This is the power of just a single nuclear weapon with a 50 megaton explosion. Witnessing such a terrifying scenario over New York City would certainly mean the end of civilization as we know it, as the retaliation response would trigger a global nuclear war, leading to unimaginable destruction and loss of life.
I ain't gonna front. And you know how America is. Play with something safe, don't play with us. I mean, Russia, y'all want to try us? All right. That retaliation will eviscerate your country. Wow, that's crazy, bro. That is crazy what nuclear bombs are capable of, but most impressively, what human man is able to create, bro. Like, I have no idea. I mean, I do kind of know, because everything's a war out here nowadays, and you're constantly fighting for capitalism and power. So I guess it's like you gotta build one of these, because you know Russia got theirs, so we gotta match them just in case, you know what I mean? But like, still, at that point, you're just kind of like hoping neither side ever gets any bright ideas. Because I ain't gonna fry, as a civilian, I would even feel it. I mean, I'd probably hear it and then die instantly. That's insane. What if a nuclear weapon hit New York tomorrow, bro? Insane, insane, insane. I'm gonna holler at you guys next video. Hit the like and subscribe button for more content. Yeah, that's insane, man. Mamba out.